System design interviews can feel overwhelming. Where do you start? What do you focus on? And how do you make sure you are covering all the critical points? Today, I will introduce you to the CCDAO Framework, a simple yet powerful tool that helps you to structure your interview answers and stand out in the system design interviews. Stick around because by the end of the video, you should have a very clear roadmap to approaching any system design questions. Unlike coding interviews, system design interviews are open-ended and there is no single correct answer. The real challenge lies in demonstrating your thought process and decision-making skills. And the problem for most of the candidates are the lack of real-world exposure to large-scale systems. And also, it's very difficult to structure your answer under pressure. This is where the CCDAO framework comes in. It gives you a better structure to organize your thoughts and efficiently communicate your approach. The CCDAO framework contains 5 steps. The first step is to collect information. The purpose of this step is to understand the problem and requirement. For any large application, they might contain hundreds of different features. So you will need to ask very clearly what is the core functionality is and what the interviewers want you to focusing on during your interview. The second step is a component structure. So typically you will be assigned a mockup or something visual you can start with. And at this step, you will need to break down the UI into logical components. The purpose of this step is to break down the system into manageable pieces. Think about the key components, how the data will flow through your component, and how would the user interact with the components. And once you have a very clear definition of the component structure, you can go to the next step, which is data modeling. This is a very important step, and that's really set apart the junior developer and the senior developer. You will need to define how data is structured and the relationship between entities. And you need to think of what entities are involved, like users, videos, comments. Should the data be normalized or nested? The data modeling step will have some impact to the next step, which is the API design. You might need to go back from the API design to data modeling or data modeling to the API design. It kind of interconnected. The purpose of the API design is define how front-end communicates with the backend. Typically, you will need to consider, are you going to use the REST of API or GraphQL? What's the endpoint are needed for the features you're asked to implement? Although you don't have to state all the details, but you do need to articulate very clearly what the benefit of having REST of API versus GraphQL and what's pros and cons on each side. As I said earlier, there is no single correct answer, but you do need to think of the trade-offs. And finally, the last step and the most important step is the optimization strategies. So this is more like a umbrella concept. It contains many different strategies in it. So basically, you will need to consider the performance considerations like the caching, pagination, lazy loading, code splitting, server-side rendering, and all the different kind of concepts that set apart a junior developer and a senior developer. And also, you need to think beyond the happy path. For entry-level role or junior developers, they might only consider the happy path. You get the data, you run the data, and you do some of the basic error handling. But for more senior role, you will need to consider a lot more out of the happy path. So you need to consider the accessibility features like keyboard, navigation, or the screen readers, internationalization, accessibility, all kinds of these supporting or cross-functional requirements. And the purpose of this step is to address the performance, scalability, and the user experience. The CCDAO framework is not just a checklist. It's a way to think systematically about system design problems. So the key benefit of having a framework like this is it can help you to make sure you are covering all the critical points that the interviewers want to see from you. And it helps you to structure your answer, making it easier for the interviewers to follow. And so your conversation will smoothly transition. And also the framework encourages you to put proactively thinking, like asking about the scalability or accessibility earlier on before the interviews ask you. And for the time allocation, I would suggest you have 5 minutes for collecting the information, asking questions. Once you have a solid understanding of the requirement, you have 5 minutes to structure your components. You just basically drawing the sketches. As in system design interview, you don't have to implement anything. You just make a sketch on how the components are structured, the interaction between the components, and you will need 10 minutes to data modeling. You probably will think of pagination, access control, different status, how do you represent arrows. And then I would suggest you have 10 minutes for the API design, because in there you probably will need to discuss the different protocols, RESTful API, GraphQL API, and why you choose this one over the other. So there are some talking points you have to discuss maybe deeper with your interviewers to demonstrate that you have a solid understanding of the reasoning behind your choice. And finally, you will need 15 minutes for the optimization strategies, because I think that's very important. And when you prepare it, you need to think beyond the happy path. You will need to think in a system level, not only direct implement the feature itself. So this is the very high level introduction to the CCDAO framework. In the coming videos, we'll dive deep into some concrete examples, demonstrate how you can apply the CCDAO framework to your actual system design questions, particularly in front end. The CCDAO framework gives you a structured way to approach system design interviews, helping you thinking like a system architecture. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. And check out my newsletters for more detailed guide on system design. In the comments, let me know what system design challenge you would like me to cover next. And thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.